This is how we play Cartagena, the Escape. So this is a early, perhaps, initial run edition, but it's certainly an early edition of this game. If you buy this game new nowadays, it's going to come in the box is going to look different, but the components are going to essentially be the same. And there's another game mixed in here which we're not going to discuss. But these are the components of Cartagena, the Escape. Okay, so there's player pieces in up to 5 different colors. Double-sided map tiles, which are going to arrange on a map here in a moment. The skiff or getaway boat, the dinghy, whatever they actually call it in the rules, and these cards. Now, these cards have pictures on it, and when I'm like pitching this game or suggesting this game as a possibility to new players at the table, I will describe this game. I think those are all the unique symbols. There's one on each of these. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's these 6. Okay. I will describe this game to other board gamers as Candyland for adults. And what I mean by that, and I'm not going to get out this card right here with the arrow. It is not really it's not part of this deck, even though it has the same back, which I think is unfortunate. It's used in a variant, which I won't be teaching because it's not how we play. And this is about how our group plays this game. So we don't play with this variant. And there's no shame in playing with the variant. There's no reason not to play with the variant. We just don't choose to. Okay. The reason why we'll describe this game as Candyland for adults is, let me show you the setup. So what you do is you kind of just randomize and shuffle the order and sides of these things. You just go, you flip them around, toss them around, whatever, and then you're gonna build a map. Okay, and all that matters with the map, it doesn't have to lock fully in like these do. It can go like that. All that really matters for the map is that you have a clear path from a beginning to a very end. So let us presume this is our map setup for this explanation. Okay, so and then you put the little getaway boat at one end, and all of the players, pirates, all of the meeples, which are pirates. So the theme of the game is that you are pirates on the island of Cartagena, and it's Cartagena the Escape. You need to escape in this game. But yours isn't the only band of pirates trying to escape the authorities that are chasing them through these tunnels. Okay, you got out of your cells and broke into some tunnels, and you're racing through the tunnels to try to get to the boat so you can get out to your pirate ship and get away. But there's other bands of pirate buddies who and that basically the other players, right? So you got all the pirates, and for the number of players, it doesn't change how many pirates you use. It's just how many player pieces are out here. Just how many player colors are out here, right? So if you're 3-player game, pick 3 of the 5 colors. 5-player game, use all 5 colors. But regardless, you're just going to always use all the pirates. Okay? There's really not, and this is a good feature of the game, there's really not a difference between 3, 4, or 5. It says it plays 2 to 5. I've played this at 2. It's fine at 2. But it's certainly a much better game at 3 to 5 just for competition, than for like 2. But that can be said for a lot of games, right? There's really nothing mechanically wrong with it at 2-player. Okay, so like if we were doing a full 5-player game, all of our pirates are essentially starting at this space here. They need to make it all the way through this tunnel, all the way to that boat. And this is a game that does not have points. This is a game, this comes back to the Candyland for Adults description of this game, is that the point of this game is to be the first player to get all 6 of your pirates of your color into the boat, and then they will throw out all, and then thematically they throw out all the pirates that aren't of their color, that aren't, their group of friends, and then they escape and they leave all the other pirates behind, all the other players' pirates behind, until all the other pirates lose and you win. What this means is this game will end on the turn that a player gets their last pirate in the boat. So if I have all of these here, and then I have this pirate here, and then on my turn I get this pirate into here, I've got all 6 in there. It doesn't matter how many pirates of other colors were in here already. What matters is that I'm the first player, and it's it will be on my turn that this happens. That I'm the first player that has all 6 of my pirates in the boat. Then boom, I kick these out. Thematically, it doesn't really matter. You already won at this point, right? Green has already won. And then green, they escape Cartagena. That, and green, if I'm the green player, I have won at that point. You don't finish a round. There's no opportunity for ties or for another player to also get all their pirates out. This is a full, just straight race. Ends immediately as soon as all 6 pirates of one color are in that little boat there. So that is the goal of the game. But how do we play? How do you get there? So, I describe this as Candyland for Adults because it has several Candyland-esque aspects to it. One of those aspects is that you'll have a hand of these cards, and they're all just an equal distribution. The deck is an equal distribution of these 6, pictures, these 6 symbols, right? So you'll have a hand of cards that you keep secret from other players. And on your turn, I'm going to go over turn structure here in a moment. But on your turn, you're going to have the opportunity to play cards and move pirates to the next possible select. Let's say, I have this hand of cards here. I'm, keep secret from other players, and I'm, taking a first turn, right? Well, if I play a bottle, all that does is I take any pirate that I have anywhere, not in the boat, but anywhere else, and I take them from where they are. And remember, all the pirates of all players are starting right here at the beginning of the game. But you just take whatever pirate from wherever they are, and you move them forward through the tunnel to the next empty spot with a bottle. So in that case, that goes there. Well, then if I play another bottle, so that's Candyland-esque, is you play a card and you move your pawn, you move your pirate to an empty space showing that symbol. Candyland uses colors, Cartagena uses these pictures, but same concept. Also like Candyland, if the space has one or more pirates on it, it doesn't matter whose pirates, right? It doesn't have to be yours, it's just one or more, pirates on it, right? So now what happens is, let's say if this is the state of the board, and I play a pirate and I'm green, I could take this pirate and I could, because I can move any pirate that I have forward, and I could take him to the next empty bottle. So he's gone and come over here. This is a bottle, but it's not empty. It's got a pirate on it. So I skip right past it. Come to this. It's a bottle, but it has a pirate on it. Come over here. It's a bottle. It has 2 pirates on it. I would go all the way to here. Because like in Candyland, you skip over spaces that are occupied. You go to the first empty space matching the card that you play. So that's very Candyland-esque, okay? But it is Candyland for adults, and I'll get to the, some of the differences from Candyland that make it an actual worthwhile game to play. But going back to this example, I could just have left him there and taken this pirate and moved him to the next first empty bottle. Not here, not there, not there, not there, and he's here, right? So, and then, like, let's say later, I have a pirate that is perhaps here, right? And let's say I play a key. Well, there is no, I could move this pirate to the first space with a key, but you'll notice there are no more spaces with keys. So that is how you get your pirate in the boat, because you play any card that basically moves you off the map. So from here, if I played a key or a bottle or there's only or another pirate flag, because I'm on a pirate flag, but there's no more pirate flags for me to land on, so I'd go to the boat. So that's basically like if I played a pirate flag, a key, or a bottle, any three of those cards those symbols don't appear here, so that's how you end up in the boat, and you just are going to be doing that 6 times throughout the game, is trying 6 times throughout the game, get your guys in the boat, right? But you're moving these pirates in whatever order on your turn that you like, right? So now let's go back to turn structure, but I'm going to leave some of these. I'm going to set up some scenarios for purposes of the teach. You can't move forward and land on the space with other pirates, but there is a way that spaces can become occupied with one or more pirates, and we're about to go through that. Okay, we're about to discuss how that happens. Okay, so I will set that up. Okay, so turn structure wise, let's pretend this is the state of the board later in the game. You will have a hand of cards that's secret to you, and on your turn you basically, unless you win, until the moment in which you win and it is your turn, you must do 3 actions. You can't skip and only do 2 actions. You must do 3 actions. Again, if on the first or second action of your turn you win, game stops. You don't have to do your other actions. But until that's the case, whenever it's your turn, you're going to be doing 3 actions. You have essentially 2 action types. So 1 action type, and you can repeat the same action type more than once on your turn. You get 3 total actions of 2 different types. First action type is play a card from your hand. So like I demonstrated, so this is my hand, okay? Like I demonstrated, like if I play a bottle, that would let me take this guy or any of these guys and move them to the next empty bottle. So I could take this guy and go all the way over here, right? So I could just, for all 3 actions of my turn, I could just play a card from my hand and move pirate forward, okay? That's fine, like I could take this one and I could move this guy from here to here, okay? Because it doesn't have to be a guy over here. It can be any pirate you have and move them forward to the next completely empty space showing that picture. That is 1 action type. But you could do that for all 3 of your actions on your turn, if you so chose. But you'll notice that you're playing cards, but you're going to need some way to get cards back again. So the second action type is how you get more cards. Because what doesn't happen, and I want to be clear about this, is you don't automatically get cards at the beginning or end of your turn or the beginning or end of a round. You will start the game. Everybody's going to start the game with 6 random cards in their hand. Okay? If I could count, let's say these were my 6 random cards in the start of the game. Well, I could move pirates forward for 2 turns in a row without ever having to try to get more cards, because I could, for the first turn, use these 3 cards, or whatever, use 3 of these cards to move pirates forward. Second turn, use the other 3 remaining cards to move pirates forward. But then I would be having no card. I would have no cards come my third turn. So whenever you want cards, whenever you want more cards, you do the second action type, and that is called falling back. Now, I've set this up to demonstrate some falling back scenarios. So let's say, and you don't play a card to fall back, because the whole point of falling back is that that's how you gain cards. So you just take any pirate that's on your board, or even a pirate that's in your boat. You can fall out of your boat. You should never want to do this, but you might be stuck doing this if you literally have, if like basically make all of your pirate, almost all of your pirates are in your boat, and you don't really have fallback opportunities with your other pirates. That can happen. You might need to take a pirate in your boat and fall backwards to, get cards, because you can't continue playing if you don't have cards. So, but let's say, regardless of how many cards are in my hand, because I'm trying to get cards, I'm going to take a pirate and I'm going to fall back. If I take this pirate, and I fall back, you fall back to the first occupied space. It doesn't matter how far back that is. You just start here and you go backwards in the tunnel until you get to the first space that has 1 or 2 pirates already there. And then you stop. So this guy would fall back to here, and I would get to draw. This would be a face down deck. Once we would shuffle the deck at the beginning of the game, obviously. Deal out cards face down. I'm leaving these cards face up only for the purposes of this teach, just so that to demonstrate that there is a card for every single one of the picture types. You also notice on these map tiles, every single map tile has 1 occurrence each of the picture types, but in a different sequence, okay? But there is no bottles are more rare than hats, or guns are more valuable than swords. It really depends upon kind of the layout. There's going to be an even distribution of each of the 6 pictures, 6 symbols throughout the entire tunnels. There's going to be an even distribution of those cards in the deck. What is not going to be even is sometimes you might encounter a situation, it's not actually occurring here, but you might encounter a situation where you have like sword right next to each other, because one's on one tile and one's on the tile next to it, right? So like these 2 swords are really close together, as opposed to like this sword and this sword are, pretty distant from each other, and that's just because of the arrangement on the tile and the randomization of the side of the tile and the order of these tiles. Okay, so circumstances wise, one picture or one symbol might be more desirable than another in the moment, but statistically, they're statistically equal throughout here, and they're statistically equal in here, okay? But going back to the falling back as an action. Because I fell back, I started here and I fell back, it doesn't matter how far I fell back, that's not what matters. What matters is the space, I fell back to the first occupied space, and that occupied space had 1 pirate at the point in time I fell back to it. It has 2 now that I'm stuck there, landed there. But it had 1 there, and when I fell back to it, that lets me draw 1 card. If, however, I decided as an action to fall this guy back, notice that there's 2 pirates here. And it doesn't matter if these 2 pirates are different pirates, or if one or both of these are my pirates. It doesn't matter. It's just how many total meeples, how many total pirates are in the spot. There are 2 in the spot. So I can fall back to here and draw 2 cards, because there were 2 pirates there at the point in time that I fell back to it. There were 2, and I fell back, and so now I get to draw 2 cards. Here, there was only 1, so when I fell back, I go and draw 1 card. Now, I will point out, you cannot fall back to a 3, because 3 is the maximum number of pirates that any space can have. So this guy cannot fall back to here. Now I'm going to read you something from the rule book, but then I'm going to tell you how we play. Okay, so this says select one of your pirates. The fall backwards to pick up cards. It says select one of your pirates and move them backwards to the first space occupied one or two pirates, like I showed you, whether yours or belonging to an opponent. While moving backwards, vacant spaces and spaces occupied by three pirates are ignored and passed by. So according to the rules, what would happen is if I'm starting here, I can't fall back to here. But according to the rules as written, you would skip right over this and fall all the way back to here, to this spot, and draw one card. And it's fine, obviously it's fine to play by the rules. It's always fine to play by the rules. The reason, but we don't play that way. What we do, and I'll tell you why, is we just play by the simpler to teach, simpler to remember, simpler to understand, just overall slightly more consistent idea that you just simply cannot fall back. This spot is full. There's no spot here or here you could fall back to, because you can't just fall back to an empty spot. You can't just choose to fall back to here, okay? You have to fall back to a spot that has one or two pirates. You cannot fall back to a spot that already has three pirates, because it's full, it's completely occupied. If you think of these as pirates side by side in the tunnel ain't wide enough for a fourth pirate. It's just wide enough for three. That's the way to think about it, right? 1, 2, 3. Tunnel is no wider, and nobody can get past. And that's the way we play. Is this guy cannot join them. No space in the tunnel. The tunnel's not wide enough, and also it's blocked. He can't get by them, right? For falling back. Coming forward, you just go right to the first empty spot, canyon lane style. The reason why we play this way, so we just say you may not fall back this pirate. He just cannot. Likewise, now that there are three pirates here, yellow player cannot on his turn, or could not fall back to here. But let's say it comes back to green's turn again, and I still want cards, regardless of how many cards I have. You don't have to be out of cards before you fall back to gain cards. You just have three actions on your turn. And if you have cards, you can play them to move forward. Whether you have cards or not, you can move pirates back to gain new cards. And you can do those actions in whatever order. So I could see the cards, not necessarily like the cards I have, fall back, gain more cards, then choose to play a card and move a pirate forward, then choose to fall back again for my third action. Okay? 3 actions, 2 action types. They can be repeated. You play whatever order you want, just 3 actions of those 2 types. But let's say it comes back around to my turn. I cannot fall him back, if I'm green, playing by the rules that we play by. I cannot fall him back to here because there's already 3 pirates. But I can fall him, you can only fall your own pirate back. You can only ever move your own pirate. But I can fall him back to here, and that would give me 2 cards. Boom, boom. Now all of a sudden there's only 2 pirates here. Now I can fall this guy back and draw 2 more cards. I've spent 2 actions of my turn, and I'd have a third action to do something else with on my turn. But in 2 actions, I was able to get 4 cards. That is a pretty decent return. Getting 2 cards for an action is a pretty decent return. Falling back for 1 card is less desirable because you lost a lot of progress, a lot of forward progress to get that 1 card. So whenever possible, you want to fall back for 2 cards. You can't ever fall back, a single fallback for 3 cards, because you cannot fall back to a space that already has 3 pirates. So the best you can do is fall back for 2 cards. So that's what you want to try to do when you are attempting to fall back to gain cards. But if you do it in the right sequence like I did, I fell back from here first, so that then I could fall back from here. So then I was able to do a fall back for 2, followed by a fall back for 2 for 2 actions, 4 total cards. That's considered pretty decently efficient, especially since these spaces weren't all that far apart from each other. Not a lot of loss in forward progress. The reason why, even though the rules say that technically you should be able to, take your pawn and you just skip over this empty space, skip over this empty space, and it says skip over any space that contains 3 pirates, just skip over this space, skip over, skip over, skip over, and fall back here. That's what the rules say. We don't play that way, and the reason why is this. When you're teaching this to new players or to kids, because again, this is a game that can be strategic and very competitive for adults to play. It's in the filler/light game. Well, it's longer than a filler, but it's in the light game category. But it's still fun, and we still get it out on certain game nights when we want to fill in a 30 to 45 minute block, right? But it's also great for families. It's great for kids because it's very Candyland-esque. So especially if kids have already played Candyland, they pick up on the whole play card, move to picture, jump over anybody who's already there to the next empty space. They already get those rules because that's very Candyland-esque, right? You just have the advantage that you've got to hand the cards that you're choosing from rather than just taking the random card off the top of the deck the way Candyland does it. So Candyland's purely luck. This is strategic because you're choosing which cards to play. You're choosing when to fall back to gain new cards. So it makes it a strategic game versus a purely luck-based game. There's still luck in whether you get cards that are going to be helpful to you or not, but it's more strategic. But this is a great game for kids. But whether it's kids or it's new players, whether they've played other board games or not, it can just be a little counterintuitive to try to explain to them that you can fall back and pass over a spot with 3 pirates, but you can't stop at a spot for 3 pirates and draw 3 cards, because that's what they're going to want to do, right? Like in a situation like this, the yellow player is looking at their options and they're like, I want to fall back from here to here for 3 cards, or fall back from here to here for 3 cards, right? So you have to be very clear in the teach at the beginning that that's not allowed. But it doesn't make sense to say, in the same way to say, but you can take your guy here and you can fall him back for 1. And they look and they go, well, why would I only get 1 card for falling back to here? You go, well, you wouldn't be falling back here. You'd be falling back from here, pretending these guys don't exist for the moment, and falling all the way back to here and getting 1 card out of it. It's harder to remember that you can pass over groups of 3, and it's harder to teach that. It's just much easier to teach and to play and to remember to teach, right? That you can only fall back to a space with 1 pirate, or if this is the case, fall back to a space with 2 pirates. You can never fall back to a space with 3 pirates. But falling back, you just teach it. We just teach it that falling back is always just taking your pirate from where they are, passing over all the empty spaces to the first space with 1 or more pirates. That is what falling back is. You can only do it if it's 1 pirate or 2 pirates. You can never do it if it's 3 pirates. That is a cleaner, simpler, easier teach. It's a more intuitive rule, and it really doesn't negatively impact gameplay, because there's never a situation where someone just can never get cards, because they can always fall back out of the boat again. So there's just no, in our experience, and we've played this game many times over many years, there's never a reason why you would need to play with the rule that you can skip over here to come over here to get a card. Players understanding the rule, understanding that they cannot fall back to a group of 3, will just do things like, spend a card to move this to, the next, let's say the next bottle, right? They play a bottle card, and then they'll go, oh, okay, I spent a card to get the next bottle. Now I can fall back for 2 cards, right? Stuff like that, okay? Now, that's how you play the game. And I already told you how you win the game, right? All right, so falling back, you can fall back your pirate to a space fall back, backwards over empty spaces to a space with 2 pirates, draw 2 cards, or fall back your pirate, backwards over empty spaces to the first occupied space if it has 1 pirate and draw 1 card, or play a card from your hand, move any one of your pirates to the first unoccupied space with a hat. You get 3 actions per turn. You randomize at the beginning a random start player, and you just go clockwise until somebody wins. Now I will tell you a little bit of strategy and terminology, just a tiny bit. First off, it is somewhat of it can be a disadvantage to be the first player, because if you're the first player, if you go back to initial setup and you're the first player, what you'll see is that there's really no option you can do for your turn other than have no pirates out to fall back anywhere. You have 6 cards in your hand at the beginning of the game, but you don't have any fallback opportunities, right? Nor do you have any leapfrog opportunities, because there's nobody out there. So there's nobody that you can leapfrog. So if this is the start of the game, and I'm gonna put these all back like in a face down deck, and we're gonna pretend that the other players all have their hand of 6 cards, right? And I'm if I'm the first player and I'm taking the first turn and I have 6 random cards, dealt to me at the start of the game, and I'm looking at these. I'm not showing them to anybody, but I'm looking at them, I'm like, well, I can play Pirate Flag, played that, and then Pirate Flag and skip over this one and go to here. And then I could fall back to myself to draw a card, but that doesn't seem very efficient. So I'm most likely to just play another, card and get 3 of my dudes. That's my option as the first player. As the second player, let's say red is going second. Red, now if they play a pirate hat, notice that they're jumping past all the way to here. Or if they play a pirate flag, they're jumping all the way over here. So it is the second player has and like, let's say the red player, they use their first action, they play the pirate flag. They get all the way to here, then they just immediately can fall back, draw a card, right? And now they start with 6 cards, they played a card, they fell back for a card, they have 6 cards again, whereas I'm down to, I played 3 cards, I'm down to 3 cards, going into my second turn. But at the end of my first turn, I've got 3 cards because I had to play 3. Second player, they played a card, they fell back, they drew a card, so now they're at 6 cards still, but they've got a pirate out here basically tied with me in the lead for getting the first pirate into the boat, right? So like this position is really not really worse than this position, right? So them falling back from here to here in order to have a net 0 card, right? Or have the same number of cards they started with, seems very smart to them. And then if they have another pirate flag, like even if it's the card they just drew, because it goes straight to your hand and can be played that same turn, they could boom like that, and that would be their third action, that'd be the end of their turn. But notice, next time their turn comes around, unless I move this pirate, they're set up for a nice 2-card fallback, right, as their first action. So second player has an advantage on the first player, in that they have people they can leapfrog over, so they can get further ahead in the tunnels for the same number of card actions. They have spots that they can fall back to draw cards. Same with the third player, has even more choices. Fourth player is going to have even more choices. Last player is going to have even more choices. So in the early game, the later your turn order is, the greater advantage you start out with in the early game, because there's just more spaces occupied, so there's more to leapfrog, there's more places to fall back to. In the late game, that advantage does kind of swing back towards, first and second, player order advantage, because when a lot of people, when most players have a lot of their pirates in the boat, and it's down to the last one or two pirates to get in, then being the player who takes your turn before the other player, then all of a sudden that's an advantage. So then all of a sudden both the first, second, and third player could all get the remaining two pirates into the boat on their turn. Then yes, the first player has the advantage that they're going to get their two pirates in before the second or third player have the opportunity to do so. So that then in that case the first player can win, or has the has that advantage in the late game towards winning. In the early game, the advantage is towards the later player orders. Okay, a little bit of so that's a little bit of like strategy to keep in mind. Also, take fallback opportunities when they're ripe. There is no reason why in Red's next turn they wouldn't start their turn by falling back for 2. Even if they have cards to move pirates forward, especially in the early game, if you just see a really easy, almost no progress lost, it's not like he's falling back from here. He's not going, oh, I'm losing all this progress just to get 2 cards. If you're like here and you're falling back, or even here and you're falling back and you're getting 2 cards, that's a great return because you need cards throughout the entire game. So take the opportunities to get 2 cards when you can. It is less efficient to get towards the end of the game and have only 3 cards in hand, but have 5 pirates you need to move, right? You can only do 3 actions per turn, but what you don't want to do is end up with a turn where you have no cards in hand for your next turn, because then you have no choice but to fall back, and you might be forced to fall back for 1 card because there aren't any opportunities to fall back for 2 cards, and that's going to suck. So take your opportunities take your convenient opportunities to fall back for 2 cards when they come up, but I caution this: don't make it your exclusive strategy to just always fall back. I've had players in the game with only 2 pirates in the boat, and someone else has gotten their 6th pirate in, and that's what ended the game. They got 2 pirates in the boat, but they're sitting on, because there's no hand limit, they're sitting on a hand of cards like this because they spent the entire game seduced by falling back. I can fall back for 2. I can fall back for 2. I can fall back for 2. And they spent turn after turn after turn doing nothing but falling back for 2 cards, or a card or 2 cards. You want them so that you can use them. Don't make collecting the cards the only thing you do in your game. Don't make racing forward the only thing you do in your game, right? Burning all your cards the only thing you do in the game. You have to balance spending your cards to move forward and taking actions to not spend cards moving forward, but to, just fall back to get more cards, right? You have to balance those 2 concerns. That's the strategy, okay? A little bit of terminology, because if you play with groups, they may or may not use this terminology. Our group does. Our group didn't invent this terminology. It's pretty common terminology with this game. Is when you have a situation like so, right? You'll notice that the pirate flags are pretty well, covered. People have been playing pirate flag cards and been leapfrogging each other. We would call that a pirate flag road, right? And everybody would kind of know that what you want to, if you're falling back to get cards, you might not want to, fall back off of this pirate flag to here and draw 2 cards. You may want to do that. But the reason why you might not want to do that is because then you've broken this pirate flag road for yourself if you're about ready to play a pirate flag card. So before you fall back, if you've got a pirate flag in your hand, and this is the situation, play a pirate flag, ride the pirate flag road, meaning all these spaces are covered in pirate flags, get all the way here, and then when you don't have any more pirate flags in your hand, that's when you would want to spend your last action to fall back for 2 cards and break this road. So now the next person who has a pirate flag, they can still get pretty far, but they're only getting to here. They're not getting into the boat, right? So having spaces covered is called a road. You know, it could be a full road or a half road or whatever. And moving off of a space that was part of a road so that there's a gap is called breaking the road. So that's just a little bit of terminology. So if you play this game in public venues with people who've played it before and they talk about, you know, the such and such road, or hey, you know, break that road before such and such player's turn and they win, that's what they're referring to. Okay? But that is, in a nutshell, how we play Cartagena, the Escape. Thank you very much.